Welcome back, everyone. In July, Sir Richard Branson went public with his support of a movement that aims to find a path to peace between Israel and Palestine called A Land for All.
A Land for All is a bold and audacious vision that would enable both Israeli Jews and Palestinian Arabs not simply to coexist, but to flourish and prosper on a common understanding of the ground beneath their feet, their shared sense of a homeland, whether you call it Israel or whether you call it Palestine. In practical terms, a Land for All entails a two-state solution rooted in the belief that there should rightfully be a Palestinian state and that there should rightfully continue to be a Jewish state.
Now, today I spoke with Richard Branson about that movement, along with May Pundak, the Israeli co-director of A Land for All, and board co-chair Professor Omar Dajani. Professor Dajani, a two-state solution has been in talks for decades. A lot of people have given up on it when you look at how it has played out over the last 30, 35 years. Why do you believe that A Land for All's particular vision is the right way forward for both Palestinians and Israelis? What is so important for viewers to understand about this proposal?
Thanks so much for the question. So what it has in common with past approaches is that it anticipates that a Palestinian state would be established alongside Israel with Jerusalem as its capital. But the ways in which it's different are, number one, that as Richard points out, it anticipates a framework of freedom of movement and residence for all Palestinians and all Israelis. And that provides a way of grappling with some of the hardest obstacles to achieving a peace deal in the past. What to do with Israeli settlers in the West Bank, what to do with Palestinian refugees who seek return to their homes inside Israel, and what to do with Jerusalem. It also provides a framework for jointly managing some of the issues like climate change adaptation, security, public health, that are really, really hard for two states to handle without very, very deep cooperation.
May, you've spoken out about how military solutions are not the way forward, and yet we've seen that approach repeatedly over many years, as we are currently seeing play out both in Lebanon, in Gaza, and elsewhere. Instead, you've said we need a political solution. Some of your organization's main principles include democracy for all, freedom of movement for all, as well as a confederation for all. How would Land for All make strides on those ideas, not just from this kind of theoretical framework, but into real life, on the ground solutions?
That's a great question. And I think that we're all struggling and grappling today with how to even start imagining how this war even ends. So I think that right now, the main focus is maintaining the hope and the resilience and the vision, the political vision that there can be a future for Israelis and Palestinians in a shared homeland that is a peaceful and equal one, while at the same time taking this vision and reverse engineering it back to concrete steps that will actually ensure that every step, once this war ends, and it needed to end a long time ago, but every step taken after it ends needs to already build us and take us to a viable future. And so we've created a guideline or a set of principles that we're really, hopefully, can ensure that where we are heading is the right direction, as opposed to not heading in the right direction, which I think has been the case for too many years.
So, Richard, what do you say to naysayers out there? I mean, a lot of people, certainly people like yourself with high profile who have a lot to stake on a situation like this, risking a little bit by coming out and saying, hey, this may be a possible solution. Let's consider it. What do you say to those who are skeptical of this, who say that a creation of a federation of some sorts would either mean no Palestinian state or ultimately the end of an Israeli state?
I was in Northern Ireland campaigning for a peace there. My father was, fighting in the Second World War, and at the time of Dresden, when Dresden was completely bombed to smithereens. I don't think anybody could have imagined that Germans and French people would live in harmony together for generations. So all I can say is it's almost inconceivable today that a peace settlement will be made. But equally, it's absolutely definite that a peace settlement will end up being made. And so now's the time to start working on it and get a really good peace settlement in place, working with all the other nations around Israel and Palestine to help it come about.
Omar, is there a way to get to a land for all without truth and reconciliation? We've seen efforts in the past in other countries and other conflicts to heal the wounds. Can you get to a land for all without addressing the underlying grievances and reconciliation for those that have been aggrieved on both sides?
We believe that addressing those underlying grievances is a crucially important part of a broader process. And folks who read our principles will see that we're committed to the idea that remedying past injustice needs to be one enterprise that is undertaken, though it has to be done without creating new injustices. And that formula, remedying past injustices without creating new injustices, provides a basic framework for dealing with everything from refugee claims to land claims across the territory of Israel and Palestine. And so while we believe that that ultimately will need to be a part of the process, we don't think that it necessarily needs to be a prerequisite for going forward toward this plan.
May, where does Land for All stand right now in terms of momentum, in terms of buy-in, in terms of support? How do you get this, again, into the actual political discourse? Do you need to have a referendum on it? Do you need to get political parties to buy in on it? What's the way to get this momentum built and going forward?
So I'll say a few things, and thanks for the question. Number one is that A Land for All in the past year has grown by thousands of people and thousands of percent, both here in Israel and in Palestine and around the world. And I think that is a great symbol or barometer of how thirsty and in need people are in hope and in the need for peace. So I think that this definitely has to come from us, from the people. We need to choose that enough is enough. And that is happening with the Land for All, certainly. The other thing is that it's very clear that the two-state solution is back on the table. And it's for sure that for many years we have been trying and leaning back into the fake status quo, that we can just, continue business as usual while annexation and apartheid and occupation are continuing in Palestine. Well, that's not the case. We cannot go back to the fake status quo of October 6th. And once we realize that we cannot go back to that, once we realize that there is no military solution to this conflict, now the question is what is on the table? And here we are committed to bringing something that is updated, relevant, and actually sustainable and can work to the table, because that's crucial to do right now, both for the political reason of building the constituency for it, but also for all of us to know where we're heading.
Yeah, certainly a little ray of light and hope in very dark times. May Pandak, Omar Dejani, Sir Richard Branson, thank you so much for your efforts and for sharing this with us.